Hello again. I mentioned the other day that a member of the New Zealand team of women weightlifters in Tokyo, Laurel Hubbard, was born male. This is not the only such person competing this year in the Olympics. Because of the national prestige of winning the Olympic Games, some countries have in the past resorted to some pretty underhand tricks. At the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, for instance, a man called Hermann Rattermann was entered as a woman in the high jump. He later admitted that the Nazis had persuaded him that this was a patriotic duty, and he duly turned up as Dora. Later, he broke the world record for the women's high jump, but there was such a scandal about this that he was later stripped of the title. Of course, the Eastern Europeans and Russians were the real pioneers in this field, and they were constantly being discovered to be dosing their athletes up with the kind of hormones which are these days prescribed for transsexuals. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, one would see Eastern European gymnasts who, although they were young women of 18 or 19, had the bodies of 10-year-old girls. They had been given puberty blockers to keep them in shape. Of course, some of the Russian shot putters and weightlifters who were supposedly women were nothing of the kind, and the situation got so bad that in 1968 the Olympic Committee introduced sex tests to sort out the men from the women. Of course, with the current sensitivity to trans issues, one cannot really imagine such a thing happening these days. Fun fact, Princess Anne was the only competitor at the 1972 Olympic Games who was not required to have a sex test. There's a brilliant instance of white privilege, or perhaps more a case of royal privilege. Before going any further, talking about how things work today, I need hardly say that it is nothing to me what clothes anybody wears or the pronouns by which they wish to be known. My only concern in this matter is that some of what is going on now can be a little unfair to those who were born female. The thumbnail to this video shows a person who is 6 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 220 pounds, and is a 50-year-old naval veteran with the musculature and physique of an adult male, playing basketball for a college team in California. Yep, seriously. The comparison with the girls in the team is very striking, and there is no doubt that here is somebody who enjoys a huge advantage in the game of basketball which they're playing. This is a competition for women, and yet here is somebody born with a male body which gives a distinct edge against other competitors. Is this fair, we ask ourselves? The Canadian women's archery team at Tokyo includes Stephanie Barrett, who, as a young person presenting as male, was very hot on the running track. Not quite good enough, though, to make it into the best teams. After transitioning and taking up archery, though, Barrett was given a place in Canada's Olympic women's team. I must mention here a curious thing which seems to be something of a theme with trans athletes and sports people. Quite a few seem to have been mad keen to win competitions when they were living as men, but couldn't get anywhere. After they transition, though, they find that competing as women allows them to lead the field. I'm not suggesting, of course, that they're so determined to win a cup at archery or weightlifting that they've had themselves castrated. That would be absurd. But it is nevertheless a strange phenomenon. Take Laurel Hubbard, who is in the New Zealand women's weightlifting team. Between 1998 and 2012, Hubbard was an enthusiastic weightlifter in men's events, but did not once qualify for a single international men's tournament. Since transitioning at the age of 35 in 2013, Hubbard has qualified for no fewer than 11 international women's tournaments, including the Olympic Games. One is reminded of another weightlifter, Mary Gregory, who, after transitioning, won all 9 events at the 100% Raw Weightlifting Federation competition, breaking 4 world records in the process. I give a link to this in the description to this video. Alas, Gregory was later disqualified and stripped of the titles because it seemed that she still had a penis. Then there's Hannah Mountsie, who between 2013 and 2015 played 22 matches as a member of the Australian men's handball team, failing to score a single goal. After transitioning, Mountsie played for the Australian women's handball team and scored 23 goals. A male physique in this contact sport is a definite advantage, and one cannot help feel that it's a little unfair to the other players. I give a link above to this person as well. There are many more examples of this kind of thing where somebody presenting as male performs in a very mediocre way against other males, but after transitioning becomes an outstanding woman at a sport. It's a curious phenomenon. There are quite a few other problems with the modern way of handling these situations, of course, because anybody asking some pretty obvious questions is liable to be accused of hate speech, so these difficulties are very seldom talked about. For example, I'm not at all shy, and I'm quite happy to shower with people of any gender and use any facilities which women or men use. It's nothing to me. Many women, though, do not like this and find the idea of taking a shower with somebody who has a penis upsetting. Unless, of course, it happens to be their husband. They don't want to share sleeping accommodation with somebody who was born with a penis either. One can quite understand this, but since such an aversion is regarded as being as bad as racism today, a lot of women are afraid to speak out loud about their concerns. I have no horse in this race, which is to say I'm not really bothered either way, but I can see both sides and I do have sympathy with them. I've got an idea we'll be seeing a lot more of this kind of thing in coming years.